Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, I am Toy, and well, this is the life. So for those of you who are new, let me tell you a little bit about myself. So I am a mother of three beautiful beings, one being toddler. I am a wife of 20 years. I started my lock journey approximately 2 years ago. I'm a first time homeowner. I am a home health aide. I am a Jehovah's Witness, a vegetarian. And today, as you will find out in this video, I homeschool my children. So if any of these things interest you, stay tuned to this channel. Be loving all up on this channel. So guys, I have been in limbo for the past month and a half about if I want to homeschool versus virtual learning. And so I realized, talking to some of my friends, that a lot of people don't understand the difference in between the two. A lot of people just come to the conclusion or assume that if your child is learning from home, then they are naturally homeschooling. And that's not the case. So I thought it would be pretty helpful to kind of speak on that in a video. So I have my handy dandy notes because I don't just want to talk off of a whim and incorrectly or give you guys incorrect information. So I did write down some notes on the two differences. So homeschooling. Well, let's start off with, to homeschool, you have to go through the state's laws. So for here in the District of Columbia, you have to go to a website. You can't do this process in person, and you fill out the necessary paperwork. The website is Aus, I believe, or Aussie. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but yeah, you would do that, and you would also submit or either download a copy of your own diploma or something equivalent to a diploma. So to even go through this process, whoever will be homeschooling the child, if it be a grandparent, a mother, or a family friend, they have to have a diploma or something equivalent to a diploma. Once you submit all that, the paperwork, the diploma, then AUS will eventually get back to you. It usually takes them no longer than a week to get back to you, to give you a determination letter to let you know if you qualify to homeschool. Versus virtual learning, there's literally nothing a parent or a guardian needs to do to comply. You would just go through the same steps that you would if your child was going to in-person public school. No, nothing added. So another thing about homeschooling is it is self-driven. So homeschooling is, it gives a parent or a guardian or the homeschooling I want to say director, it gives them the power, basically. So you're in charge of transcripts, you're in charge of grading, you're in charge of attendance, you're in charge of curriculum style. So here in the District of Columbia, there are certain things that you must add, that are mandatory to add in curriculum. The main things that must be is math, language arts, social studies, and science. They also recently added on PE, art, and music. So the thing about that is, when you're homeschooling, being told that you have to, example, incorporate history, right? Or social studies, right? That can look like anything to each person. So, example, my children, for history, what we do is we instead of using like public or the state school history books, what we do is we have like family worship, where we read up on Jesus, his life, the disciples, things of that nature. Maybe we may have a project that has to do with Job. That is a form of history, because history is something that happened in ancient time that affects our day at where we currently are. Or it talks about something, someone, or something that is historical. So with that being said, that's how homeschooling is. Very free spirited, and the parent always holds the control. Versus virtual learning, the school keeps the control. So just the same curriculum that's outlined when your child attends a public charter or state school is the same curriculum that your child is going to go by being virtually learned. That did not sound right. Doing virtual school. With that being said, guys, that even means the compliance of attendance. So if there's a certain amount of absences that cannot be missed, that would still comply to virtual learning. So really the parent supports their child in this situation. But if your child is going to virtual learn, you won't be calling the shots. It will be more so you being a support system to your child. And you guys will just basically be complying off of your state's curriculum, your state's rules, your state's standard for school. Okay, so with homeschooling, it's super flexible. And that's probably my favorite part about it. So with homeschooling, it can be very hands-on and just very, like I just mentioned, very flexible. So it can work with your schedule and not against it. I'll give a good example. So when it comes to math, if my child were in, I want to say complying by their state curriculum, it would be like algebra 1 in ninth grade, algebra 2 and on some, you know. But I might decide, or I have decided in the past, that math might consist of that day we go to the store. And if we go to the store while I'm running errands and doing things that I have to do for the household chores or, you know, or going grocery shopping, I might have my children budget. I might have them make a list of the things we need, approximately how much they cost. I might even have them walk around with a calculator and literally do the budgeting as I shop. And then I might have them pay for the items and give an estimate of what they believe they're going to get back. And then also I might have them round that number off to the nearest 100. So you get my drift. It's very flexible. And see, I'm basically in that moment, I am running errands and doing what I need to do as a wife or as a mother, and I'm also teaching my children. Sometimes a day could consist, for science, we might go outside and we might plant. My youngest daughter is working on planting radishes, carrots, and I forgot what the last thing is, like anemone. So yeah, that might be a day of science for us. So it's very super flexible and very hands-on versus virtual learning. Not so much. It is a lot of screen time. So virtual learning is basically your child going to school, but doing it from home. It's not so much hands-on, and it is more structured. It's more hitting points. And then also, not to forget, it also requires some portion of in-person testing to see if your child qualifies for the next grade level. So it's definitely, if there's a requirement for your state's education guidelines that a child must do algebra 1, 2, and 3, then that's what it is. Like there's no, and I don't even know if there is algebra 3, so let me take that back. But I know there's algebra 1 and algebra 2, trigonometry, whatever it requires for in your state, then that's what they will be doing. And they'll be doing it on screen, online. I have personally done both. I've done homeschooling, I've done virtual learning. I personally like homeschooling. The thing I love about homeschooling is that the flexibility. I took my child out of public school mainly because of the bullying, but over time, I really grew to like the flexibility of homeschooling. As you know, we are Christians, so we live a life of putting God first, putting family first. So I love the fact that school really sets the tone for my children to see that whatever you do in life, let it revolve around God. So even when my children get careers and jobs, I want them to keep that same energy, keep that same mentality that no matter what we do in life, God has to be the center of it. So that's what homeschooling provides for me. Some days we're able to wake up and say, we're going to go do ministry, and we're not going to start school at 8, 9, 10 o'clock. We're actually going to start school at 1 o'clock when we're finished working for the Lord. So I love that about homeschooling. Now, one thing I didn't care for when it came to virtual learning was that it's a lot of screen time. And I'm kind of not for my children being in front of a screen for long periods such as that. However, I will say homeschooling comes with its cons too. It is a lot of work on a parent or on a caregiver, especially if you're not going to use like a third party or some type of programming that will create a curriculum for you. And if you're going to more so do your homeschooling kind of traditional than where you create your own curriculum, it does become a lot for a parent. Me personally, my job is very flexible, so I can buy out the time to do that. However, if you're a parent that just thinks I can't take on that, especially if you work full time, you may say I can't take on that, then virtual learning might be best for you. Because the great thing about both platforms is that your child avoids being in a overcrowded classroom, being around bad influences or bullying. Not to mention too that you also get to be more involved in your child's education, no matter which route you take. So I honestly say both of them are a win-win, but I think it's homeschooling for me. And it's so funny because before I produced this video, or while I was in the middle of recording this video, I got a phone call from one of the schools that I applied for my oldest daughter, when I was thinking I wanted to do virtual learning for her this year, because it is her last year of school, and I kind of wanted her to have a state-issued diploma. However, I kind of had to reflect on my reasoning, why I wanted her to do virtual learning, and what's best in her interest and in my interest. And I think it's going to be homeschooling this year. And I think me and her are comfortable with her getting or receiving a diploma, a homeschooling diploma. So I think we're going to continue. If it's not broke, don't fix it. So I think we're going to continue doing that path. However, some of the schools in my state that offer virtual learning is Friendship Online, Collegiate Online, and KIP Online. So those are 3 schools that, and I've actually used Friendship, and I would probably rate the situation, the satisfaction, maybe a 8 out of, I don't know, in between a 7 to an 8 out of 10. But homeschooling, I would give it, especially the past few years, once I've gotten more, more confident in my homeschooling, I would probably give it a 10 out of 10. So yeah, so I don't know which one is best for you. Leave me a comment and tell me. So ladies, gents, whoever, stay strong.